excited about my new place, Federal Hill, cute area. And I'm in this like more neighborhoody area than I've lived in before. And I have this porch. I'm psyched. Like the second day I'm there, like boxes still all over my apartment. I got my coffee at like 8:30 in the morning, and I am drinking my coffee. This guy is strolling past, and he is buzzing with energy. I mean, buzzing with God knows what, honestly. He strolls out, grinning ear to ear. He says, well, hello. You're new to the neighborhood. I haven't seen you around here. And I just kind of nod and like sip my coffee, say, yeah, I just moved in. And he's like, wow. Like, well, my name's Paul. I live right around the corner, 91 Ring Street. Is this your Christmas cactus? I've been eyeing this Christmas cactus ever since you moved in. It's so beautiful. My grandmother had a Christmas cactus just like that, and oh, like, God rest her soul. Miss her so much. I'm like, like 8:30 in the morning, have not even really had my coffee yet. Then he's rambling on about the Christmas cactus, and then he's like, yeah, so I'm Paul, 91 Ring Street, right around the corner. I'm the local like weed guy, like ask your neighbors. I'm always dropping off weed for all the neighbors. These people down the street, those are the local lesbians. Those guys down there own the restaurant Julian's. Like, oh, I know them all. I've been here for like 30 years. This is my home. Like, he's like, if you ever need anything, don't be afraid to ask. I'm like, And then he's like, what if we did a swap? Like, I'm looking for some trimmings. I love this Christmas cactus. I'll drop off a brownie for you, okay? And I'm like, you don't need to drop off the brownie, sir. You can just take some trimmings. I really don't mind. He's just like, oh, no, I'll drop something off. Well, welcome to the neighborhood. He's like walking off, but the entire time he's kind of going like in between, like he's like walking and then coming back and then walking and coming back, like cannot stop moving, this man, going like a million miles a second. Then this poor shirtless man, like 20 years old, he is running past on his morning run. It's like about my age, maybe older, I don't know. And Paul like does a double take to this guy and like looks back at me, is like raising his eyebrows and like smirking, and he's like, oh, welcome to the neighborhood. And then he walks off. I didn't hear anything from him, but then 2 weeks later, I go out to my porch to smoke a cigarette, and I see trimmings all over my floor, like just like dirt, and like something had been rustled around, and then I see a little saran wrapped brownie. Obviously no explanation needed, this is from Paul, but he did leave a little note scribbled on a paper bag. It said, thanks for the trimmings, enjoy the brownie, Paul, 91 Ring. A couple days later, I see him once again. He passes by and he says, did you get my little gift? And I'm like, I sure did, Paul. Thank you. And he's like, well, did you try it? I'm like, no, I haven't had it yet. He's like, why haven't you had it? I'm like, I don't know, just haven't come around to it. He's like, well, there's nothing to be afraid of, just take half of it. I mean, I sell weed to like everyone in this neighborhood. He said like, he's like, I have tons of medical clients, which I'm not even really sure what he's referring to there, because I'm pretty sure this man does not have a medical license to be giving out weed. He says, yes, like, have no fear. You can totally trust me. And he's like, so do you need anything from the liquor store? I'm on my way to the liquor store. I'm like, no, I'm really good, Paul. And he's like, what can I get you? Can I get you some nips? I leave everybody in the neighborhood nips. I mean, you know those neighbors right across the street? Like points over across the street. I drop them off nips like once a week. They eventually were saying like, Paul, stop leaving us the nips. Like in my head, I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, this guy seems like a little bit of a public nuisance. So he's like, what kind of nip can I get you? I was like, I've never had a nip. I don't know. I like vodka. And he's like, oh, they don't sell like vodka nips. It's always like bullshit, like sugar drinks, like Fireball or like peppermint schnapps or something. And he's like, they don't sell me anything. They don't sell me anything besides nips. So it has to be one of those, which is red flags. And I'm like, I'm really okay. And he's like, all right. And he leaves. And then later that night, I go out and I find a little nip of Fireball left. And then I don't hear from him in a bit. At this point, I've realized I am on his route to the liquor store. So that's normally when I come across him. A couple weeks later, I go outside onto my porch and I see cigarette butts all over the floor. Just butts scattered everywhere. And I noticed that my ashtray is missing. And then in its place is like one of those little like Hostess honey bun snacks. And I'm like pissed off. This was a really cute little ashtray I found on Craigslist. And I was just pissed off to find all my cigarette butts on the ground. Like, I knew that he was crazy. And I did have a feeling in my gut that this was gonna rear its ugly head in some way, you know. And I honestly wouldn't have known it was him if he hadn't left the little Hostess snacks. Like, what is that, an apology? So now I'm like no longer on Team Paul. I didn't know if he was gonna show up and see something through my window that he likes next and, you know, snag something there. Next day, I find a bag of Bugles. This man clearly feels apologetic because now he's leaving me snacks galore. By the way, the Hostess honey buns were expired. A few days after the Bugles, I do see Paul. I think it's actually on Halloween night. And he has like a bag of candy. And he goes, oh, hello! I was just about to drop you off some more goodies. And he has like a handful of like Hershey's, Reese's, whatever. As he's talking, he like reaches his scrawny little hand through the bars and like the fence of my porch. And I'm like, oh, hi, Paul. I'm like, thank you, but I have a question for you. Did you take my ashtray? And he goes, of course not. I would never take your ashtray. And I'm like, are you sure? And he goes, excuse me? Am I sure? I'm like, I don't have a lot of visitors on my porch besides you. And he goes, excuse me? I am a man of my word. I did not steal your ashtray. Have a nice day. Have a nice day. And he tromps off, very upset with me. After that, I was like, what even was the fucking point? Of course he's not going to say if he took my ashtray, even if he did. And now I feel like an asshole, and I probably should. I was accusing him, and I didn't really have any evidence. So, I haven't seen him since. Instead of my ashtray, I had to put a little tin can out there. There's still a couple Hershey's bars. I was talking with my girlfriend the other day, and she was saying, like, maybe you should apologize to him. You know, she had a point. I don't know. I guess I didn't really have evidence that he did it. And if he didn't do it, maybe I just lost my crazy, eccentric neighbor. But I'm sure I'll see him around. You know, I'm only a couple months into my new apartment, so I'm sure there will be more segments to come about Crazy Paul on Ring Street.